Good morning and happy Sunday. I like to touch on the methodologies of our practice. Our methodology is always balanced between two kinds of practice. We self-practice, we practice meditation, and we practice living in the state of mind, the state of clarity. So we design the two domains. So the first domain, as you see here, is transcending worldliness, or we call the domain of self-practice. And the other domain is the domain of live and practice with other, or cultivate with other. These two domains are intertwined. In this domain of self-practice, we sit and we meditate alone. But the other domain that we always connect with people. And the connection with people is very important. However, the whole idea of having these two domains here, it helps us to realize how important that we need to know the rules of each domain. Each domain is governed by certain rules. For example, when you meditate, you want to, you want to emanate the ever-present light. And that ever-present light is your very reason for you to cultivate, right? So ultimately, what we become is we become the ever-present light, the eternal light. And when we say that, we already imply that there is the darkness that blocks us. So in Buddhism, we're talking about this darkness here, the darkness, as the five skandhas, the five shadows. But also, there are three states that we also locked in the darkness. The five shadow is the sensation of the body, the feeling skandha, feeling shadows, the thoughts, the habitual energy, and finally the consciousness. So that's the five shadows, and it only appears when you meditate. Okay, when it in real life, it doesn't call shadows. It's called aggregates. It's a thing that you can touch, the body, the feeling that you can feel, it's shown in your face, the thoughts that is emanate sometime and all the time in your head, and you can interact with people. So the five aggregates and the five shadows are two different meanings, two different domains. In the domain of living and interacting with people, it's called aggregates, meaning they combine together and they create an entity. But in the time you meditate, you close the eye, it's called shadows because it only appears in your mind. Now, when you're alone and you self-practice, then you have the three states. These three states is ever present, and that's one. One is the wakefulness. The other one is dream. And the last one is deep sleep. So these are the state that basically is nothing new because every one of us experience, and in Buddhism it's also just matter of factly that we know that. But those are called shadows. So when you cultivate, you get out of the shadow, out of the darkness, and you be in the state of light. So now looking at this, so look at this one here, and let's say we get out of this thing here. Okay, put it right here, and we go beyond it. So here the arrow, we go beyond every darkness here. So when we go beyond it, what is the time, or what is the space-time continuum? We go beyond the space-time continuum? Yes, we go beyond that. What is that state? That state is the state of consciousness, and you look at here. Here we are, we meditate, and then we go beyond it. Okay, so this state is what we call the state of the ever-present light. Ever-present light. And that means no darkness, no more darkness, no more shadows, no darkness. But in this state of ever-present light, what are we? Who are we? And what are we doing up there? We become the ever-present light, right? Ever-present light. Is this here, the light? If we are present light, then how does it taste? How does it feel? How do we act in that state? It's very weird because the ever-present light here, if you are in the state of light here, then you're still alive. But in the moment of wakefulness, in the state of wakefulness, wakeful or awake, or staying like this now, you have no confusion. There's such a clarity in your mind that you can always see things moving in front of you, and you're not confused. You can interact, you can express love, you can express everything you need to express, but at the same time, you see very clearly the egocentrism, it's disappearing. You see everything so clearly, and you're above everything. But at the same time, you're right here, wakefulness. You're not sleeping. Then when you go to sleep, you clearly go to sleep. You get into the IEM sleep, meaning rapid eye movement sleep, but you're not there. You see all the things, all the dreams, but you're not the dream. You experience, you see it. Nowadays, people call it witness. In Buddhist term, we simply use the word see. We see clearly, but we're not part of it, and yet we are it. So paradoxical. And then the last stage is the deep sleep. You may snore, and you may show that people pick up your hand and drop down, and they know that you are in deep sleep, and yet your mind is so clear. You know everything and everything. It's a very weird state, isn't it? And yet that's called the clarity. And you don't deny anything, and you accept everything. You see all the states, and that state, lacking of the right term. So in the past, all the meditators who experience it called it Samadhi. Samadhi. So Samadhi is the vehicle, and the destination is ever-present light. So they usually, one is the nature, ever-present light is what you experience in Samadhi. And Samadhi is a state that you actually go beyond the lower domain, which we call transcending worldliness. Now, let's thinking about just 1 minute about this. So you become Arahat, and you cultivate, become Arahat. The Arahat is a person who can totally go beyond all the darkness, all the five shadows, the body, feeling, thoughts, habitual energy, and consciousness, go beyond it. The Arahat also be free from the three states of mind: wakefulness, dream, and sleep, and deep sleep. All the Arahats are like that. But yet, they said that is the state of nirvana. They don't engage with the world. In other words, when they get to that space, all the Arahats decide that they abandon this vehicle, this body. They're not going to reborn, they're not going to come back, they're not going to interact with anyone. They enter into also the same word called Samadhi. But it's such like inert, meaning that they don't interact with anyone, anything, or any movement. They're completely still, and the stillness there is absolute stillness. It's absolute non-duality. It's gone. So we cannot see that Arahat anywhere in the universe. It completely disappeared. The Buddha say it's like the candle. When you blow the flame, the extinguisher flame, the flame's gone. You never be able to see it anywhere. Samadhi of Bodhisattva is so different that you go beyond the darkness, the 5 skandhas, and the 3 states, and yet you still alive. And you can take up this body or you manifest many bodies. And many accounts like that happen in real life. You can have many bodies, and you be free from birth and death, and you come back to engage with living beings. And even right at this moment now, if you enlighten, you're in Samadhi, you engage with living beings, and you have the heart open as vast as the sea, you're not shrinking from helping others. And that is truly compassionate. As far as manifesting the body, my own master, Master Hoa, he passed away a long time ago. And a year after he had passed away, actually 2 years after he passed away. There's one day that I was giving the transmission of the 42 hands and eyes for one of the monks. He appeared right in front of me, walking in, sitting there right in front of me, about maybe 30 feet. And in flesh and bone, he sat there, sit on the bench. He walked in, and then he facing me, sit down, take off his shoes, cross his leg, looking at me, straight at me, and mirror exactly what I'm teaching the 42 hands and eyes to the other monk. And he doesn't just appear and disappear in a second, because that could be my illusion or my delusion. No, he was appearing like that for a straight 50 minutes. And I can close my eye, open my eyes, and he's still there. And the moment that I finished the transmission of the 42 hands and eyes, he stood up. Of course, he put his shoes in and stood up, and he walked slowly out of my vision, because the 2 walls block my view. But that isn't that something we call the freedom from birth and death? And all bodhisattvas are doing that. They're not stuck in the birth and death. They're not afraid of birth and death. And therefore, they don't think about cutting off birth and death, because there's nothing to be cut off. It's just like any dream. Woke up from the dream. As you see, birth and death is just simply one with the true nature. And this is very interesting about the way that people practice and the way that bodhisattvas everywhere appear in the world. They are free from birth and death, and they are completely free from all notions, and they don't need to make any announcement, they don't need to make any advertisement about what they do or what they don't do. They're simply free beings, and the only reason why they be here is to help living beings, is to wake up us from the dream of power, of glory, and the dream of always wanting to get more and more. So this is the mission of all living beings, of all bodhisattvas. It's the mission to bring joy and peace, and you can name all the good characters, but that's the kind of bodhisattva's mission. It's always for living beings and help all living beings. You see the other side here, and look at this map here. You see that's the ever-present light here. See that? Ever-present light. The ever-present light is the universe that we call leaving the mundane. Instead of saying ever-present light, I wouldn't say that domain, because I read in the Avatamsaka Sutra, there are 2 chapters. The chapter 30a and chapter 39. The name of the 2 chapters is, one is leaving the mundane and entering the Dharma Dhatu. So I use these two titles to name the two domains. So the domain of leaving the world behind, leaving the mundane, is a domain that you always stay in Samadhi. It's a domain that you stay in Samadhi. Now, if you stay in Samadhi, meaning in the Bodhisattva Samadhi, then you be free from birth and death, and then you stay constantly in the light. You are the light. No, you don't need to have any body. But then, because you want to help living beings, you want to go back to this to help all living beings. You can come back and engage with the world. Now, this is the space where you find all the commoners, phàm phu, all the living beings that is living in here. And yet, sometimes you come across bodhisattva, right? Sometimes bodhisattva here, bodhisattva there. You have the Buddhas, the Arhats, the sages. Sometimes you have all the sages there. But there is a space where all the bodhisattvas, they always gather. They're up here. And Buddhas and bodhisattvas up here. Now, let's go back to this image here. So, in this realm of this domain of transcending world, and you emanate the light, the ever-present light. But what do you do in the, we call it in the domain of cultivation with others? In this domain, you emanate the light, but this light here have a different name. The light here called the light of kindness, of compassion, of joy, and mostly the joy comes from being very selfless, being serving. When you serve others, then you have the joy, and that is the joy that we're talking about here. Joy doesn't mean that we just get a new toy from Legoland and that we be happy. The joy from invading other country, no, that's not joyful at all. So this joy here, and then the last one is very interesting, is giving and forgiving, or generosity, forgiveness, giving and forgiving. So we have this light that emanates kindness, compassion, joy, giving, forgiving. And where do we emanate this light to? To every single heart of all kind of living being, not only human, but to animal, to invisible being everywhere in the universe. So this is the reason of our being. We be in the world in order to bring kindness, compassion, joy, giving, and forgiving to all living beings. So you see that one, right? Now, you take a look at this one. From here, go to here. So you see here, let's say you're right here, and you would emanate the light to all of this being, right? So that is your mission. Your mission is to send the light to all living beings. And the light's name, kindness, compassion, joy, giving, and forgiving. But what happens is you are in Samadhi. When you're in Samadhi, what happens is look, you're here. Now you send the light to all living beings, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and you create the web of light. Create the infinite web of light. Infinite web of light. Oh, it turned out that when we come down into this world, we build every single connections. We make every single connection become the connection that we transfer the light of kindness and compassion. But when we do that with so many people, slowly, we're weaving the web, we become the nexus to connect all living beings so they can experience kindness and compassion, and we lift them up slowly so they can practice. But ultimately, what does it go? How does it end? It ends up that everyone now cultivating, everyone can shine their lights from their own. You bring kindness to someone, and someone will learn to be kind. You bring compassion to that person, and that person learn to be compassionate. And slowly, slowly, everyone shine the lights. Everyone become the source of light. And everyone now creating this huge, huge dynamic so that everyone will be lifted up into Samadhi. Everyone enters Samadhi. So it's not individual Samadhi, but it's a collective Samadhi, and from which you connect and create this infinite web of light. It turned out that become the mission for any of us who practice the Bodhisattva path. I want to mention this because if you cultivate Zen, Chang meditation, Zen and Chang, or Zen in Japan, Japanese, or Chang in Zen school or Chang school in Chinese, or Thiền Tông in Vietnam, the mission of creating the web of light is not there. They don't create the web of light because that's not their mission. Their mission is to enlighten. But we are not stopping at enlightenment, but we create the web of light we create. And therefore, right now, you need to do service. You need to serve living beings. And that is the direction for us to be. And so we say that in one hand, you need to practice to be really, really bright inside. The other hand, you need to serve all living beings and bring kindness, compassion, joy, giving, forgiving to every heart. The two domains grow into this Samadhi, and these domains grow into the Dharma Dhatu. And all of the domain here are inseparable. The one below is separate from the one above. The darkness never be free from light. Light and darkness, they are non-dualistic. And the domain of the mundane, the world, never be apart from the domain we call reality, which is Dharma Dhatu. And then the domain that we are now practice alone will never separate from the domain of being with others. There's only moment that we be with ourselves, but we need to be with others. And the domain of Samadhi, which is the ever-present light, never be free from the domain we call the web of lights. They are very much inseparable. And therefore, that's a complete picture of how we cultivate, how we be. And we be to be more accepting, not to be denying. We cultivate not only to be, but be the lights and be the web of lights. So a little bit expanding in the concept of cultivation. I want to end this talk today with a short meditation and prayer to the people in Europe, not only Ukraine, but everywhere in Europe, including people in Russia. We are facing this unprecedented moment in history, and we have many people who requesting me directly to prayer and to meditate, and we have some very solid way to help people as well. Instead of giving donation to certain organization, we probably will take a little shorter and sort of not a big way, and that is we know some people who care for the Ukraine. For example, I knew that someone in Belgium, they have to take in the family for a couple of weeks, and then from Ukraine, temporarily stay for a couple of weeks and move on, and let that family move on. So it's kind of fostering. I knew that program, and I knew someone who speak about doing that, helping. So we're thinking about how we can actually, in the domain of engaging the world, how we can actually help family by family. We haven't thought about how to make a huge connection, doing huge thing yet. We don't know how to do it yet. We will study and find out how to do it. But for the moment, we knew how we can help one family, two family, 3 families, one at a time. We certainly doing very small way, not a big way, but sure way that we can reach out to the people who are refugees. Myself is a refugee, and many of us in California here, the Vietnamese, are refugees, and we knew how difficult when we left our motherland and how we start new living. Very difficult, especially many beings already not in their prime time. They are 60s, 70s, so they still have to leave the country. Their suffering is unspeakable. So we need to say some prayer. But how do we do it? Here's how we do it. We meditate, and first of all, we need to find home. We need to feel home in ourselves, and that home is the serenity, is the calmness, is the we call the stillness. So that's first thing is we need to find our home. That's the first home. And then the second home is we need to find our love. When we find our love and our home with its stillness, then we can give that to the world. If we cannot feel home and we cannot find love in ourselves, how could we give? So this meditation, a very short one, but it's aim to let us come back to our home with stillness, and aim to bring out the love within us and emanate that love to all living beings who are now suffering and need a home. Be that home the stillness, the serenity, the peace, all that home as love. So please join me. It's only a few minutes. So, okay. I'd like you to take a look at the syllable va, which is the seat of compassion. Here we go. That's the wonderful va. Let our body naturally settle. Scan our face. Relax our facial skin, muscle. Close our eyes. Let the eyeballs be still and settle. And rest the tongue. Feel how the head, the face become very still and restful. Scan down the shoulders and let go of the shoulders. Scan down the arms, hands, and fingers. Feel the hands and fingers become still, heavier, straightening up our back, and relax. Then look at the chest there and relax the muscle there. Loosening up all the tightness, sweeping down to the abdomen and settle. Release all the tension on your legs. Feel the body become very, very still. Let's deepen the stillness by breathe very slowly for a few minutes. Inhale, expand the abdomen. Exhale, contract the abdomen. Feel the body become so restful. If your body has not yet been relaxed, ask the body to rest completely. Ask every single cell in the body to rest. I am very restful, very still. Stillness, restfulness is my home. You can feel right now a sense of being so peaceful. Just breathe very deeply. Now inhale slowly, gently. When exhaling, think of sending this sense, this feeling of home to everyone who lost their home. My home is stillness. My home is peacefulness. And let me share my home with all living beings, all who needs a home. And now visualize syllable va at the heart center. Inhale to va. Connect va with our heart. Now every time we inhale to va, exhale, emanate the lights from va. Imagine that va emanate lights to all directions. And let this light shine to those who need love, those who want to be free from fear. Let's send to them. And so breathe very gently to va. Exhale, send the lights of love and fearless to all living beings. In our mind, generate a thought that full of lights, affirm that I am, emanate these lights of compassion. May these lights touch every heart, turn hate into love, and turn fear into peacefulness. Turn all darkness into light. Exhale 3 times to the mouth. Send our life energy to all living beings. And then put the palms together. Always with deep gratitude. Recognize that I am the force of goodness. I am the force of healing. And I am the force of transformation. Bow down. Thank you everyone for joining me in this short meditation, and I wish you a good, happy weekend. I'll see you next week.